1, 2, 3, testing. One, two, three, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. All right, guys. Welcome to this workshop where I'm going to teach anyone who has valuable knowledge how they can monetize their knowledge. And this is going to be a video course that's going to sell, but this is right now it's a spontaneous live stream. So I want to share my experience with you because 1, 2, 3, testing. This is probably the most 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3, testing. This is the most valuable knowledge that I have, and it's knowledge about how to make money from knowledge. So we're gonna go from your knowledge into money, and this is it's a process. It's not a journey. It's a process that is very structured, and I'm probably one of the few people who is actually qualified and proven. I have a proven competency on how to, how you can go from your knowledge to money. And it's a very exciting journey because knowledge is just, it's not in the form of a product. Because knowledge, we have to define it differently. The way that I define knowledge is that it's the capacity for effective action. So this knowledge lies inside of your head. And this is a good thing, right? Like if the knowledge is not inside of your head, it's not good. And ideally, that's what education is supposed to enable people to do. Like education at the beginning, let's say you're a teenager, you don't have useful knowledge for the most part. So let's say you're a teenager here and you're raised by your parents, but the knowledge is outside of you, right? The knowledge, let's say, is in the head of a bigger person, usually a teacher. And so the teacher would normally try to transfer that knowledge into your head. And it's not information, it's the capacity for effective action. And it's really not information. Information is, what you find on Wikipedia, or it's what you find in books. Okay, books do not contain knowledge; they contain information. You have a Wikipedia, you have YouTube, Facebook groups, you have Instagram, TikTok. So you have a lot of information in different formats. Video, text, images, but that's just information. It doesn't have value for the most part. Okay, like sometimes in very rare cases it has value, but for the most part it does not have any cash value. The knowledge in somebody's head, like for example in my head, it has value because when I teach at college, I used to charge $80 an hour. So obviously there's value in my head. But the trick is that I have to, as a teacher, I have to transfer that knowledge into a person's head. Although most of my students, not most, but many of my male students are taller than me, so they're not that small. Okay, this is like a kid. But typically, a teacher would try to transfer that knowledge inside of a student, so the student has valuable knowledge. And to the extent that this student graduates and he remembers or she remembers what to do, because knowledge, again, it's about the capacity for effective action. Okay, action is very important. Then the students can make money from the knowledge. So it's not really the certificate, I'm going to put it here. It's not your diploma that has knowledge. None of that. It doesn't really matter today, for the most part, whether you have a diploma or certification or not. The only thing that matters is whether you have actual knowledge in your head. So anyways, to make a long story short, once you have knowledge in your head, you basically become a professional. Okay, so here we have a teacher, okay, but a teacher is not a professional in the sense that the teacher is not using his knowledge. So the teacher, like in my case, can also be a professional, or the student here can also become a professional. So here we have a pro. A pro is someone who is using his knowledge to, accomplish some kind of work. And that's how you know that it's a pro. So a professional, like the 1 billion people on LinkedIn, they're making good money. They're knowledge workers, right? So they are using their knowledge to accomplish a task. So this is the case for, like about 1 billion people. I'm just going to erase this because actually I'm going to put it higher. So the money here is actually, just going to blow it up to make it more interesting. And the money here is really far away. Like I'm talking about passive income. So we should maybe differentiate, because there is a, as a professional, you can actually make money. Not, here the money probably is much more. So we're going to increase it. And the money I'm talking about here is much more significant than the money that you're making from a job. So this is the money, let's say it's your paycheck. Okay, so you're making a bit of money, not a bit of money, but sometimes you can make significant money, your paycheck, $100,000 a year, etc. But here it's not exactly a paycheck. On the right hand side here, you see the big dollar sign. That's what you should be aiming for, which is possible today with artificial intelligence. So it's not a paycheck, it's passive income. So it's money that is deposited into your bank account even when you're sleeping. So sometimes I call it sleep income. Okay, so ultimately, that's what you should be aiming for. But most people, like I said, it's not their fault, but most people, they don't know how to make that kind of passive income. So it's almost like as if there's a barrier that separates people, and they cannot generate passive income. So they're kind of like stuck. I might as well draw a barrier here where there's a kind of barrier between the teacher over here and the student. So here they're dealing with knowledge, but they're not applying the knowledge. Okay. On the second floor, let's call it second floor, we have people who are professionals, and they are the people who apply knowledge to specific situations or problems. Okay, so we're going to put situations, and so it's more practical, it's more hands-on. The students and the teachers here, they're at the same level in the sense that they're not applying information. It's more like theory, and theory is important at the beginning, so they're dealing with theories, they're dealing with concepts, which is the foundation, right? You have to go through that. You cannot become a professional unless and until you have the theory first. So this is important, but this is what I would call level 1, and you want to move to level 2. So let me just use a different color. So level 1 is obviously where all of my students are, and level 2 is where you become a professional, where you're actually applying the knowledge, and as you apply knowledge, you gain more experience, more skills. But there is a level 3 that very few people suspect exist, and this is where you're generating passive income. This is really the potential. So you can see these 3 levels as like 3 floors in a building, except that we all know about, sorry, my building is a little bit like the Pisa Tower in Italy, but let me just redo it. So you have like a kind of building that has different floors. And the strange thing is that people sometimes they don't realize that there is a higher floor. Maybe I'm going to put a higher floor here, 5th floor. So on the first floor, we have, like I said, teachers and students in schools and colleges. The second floor, we have the workplace. So this is where the professionals are. And the third floor is where you have like information products. And you're creating passive income. And this is where I want to train you to think. This is where you're creating passive income. So only through information products, because an information product is like something that you can sell to your customers all over the world in multiple languages, and you don't have to be there. So, if you're on floor number 2, it's great, right? You can make money, but the problem with making money at this level is that you have to show up. You have to exchange your time for money. And we all know that we are mortals, right? And time is limited, especially when you begin to build a family. Suddenly your time is worth so much more. And so here you exchange your time for money. You give your time, or you give value, and you get money in return from a company, typically a corporation. But you want to move on to a higher level. This is level 3, where I'm going to teach you how to operate, where you're not giving away your time. You're not paid per hour. And this is critical. You're not paid per hour, but you're paid per how. And what I mean by pay per how is that it's not about how much time you put in. It's about whether your knowledge is actually teaching people how to do something. Okay? Specifically how to produce a particular result. So you're selling to them like a kind of like a recipe, if you will. Okay? So how to produce a result. And of course, you've been producing those results before, so you know how to produce those results. It's a little bit like, think of here, you're selling recipes. Okay, a recipe that has worked already. Here, you're not selling a recipe, you're selling your time, and you're selling your skills. So when you come up with a recipe, that's when you can actually sell and make money even while you're sleeping. But unfortunately, this floor, this third floor, is not visible to people who are on the second floor. And that's why, like, on the second floor, you have like 1 billion people on LinkedIn, and all these are my potential customers. You have like over 1 billion people who are knowledge workers, and they constitute like 49% of most work. The 51%, they are doing manual work, like electrician or cashier or salespeople in a retail store. They don't sell their knowledge. So that's even a worse case than the professionals over here. Okay. But 49% of the working population, they're working behind a computer. In other words, they're using their knowledge. And there's at least like 1 billion people on LinkedIn. So all these people, they don't know that there is a third floor. And on this third floor, this is where, you can generate passive income. This is where you're looking at, the passive income that I talked about over here, where the money is significantly more. Okay, the passive income over here, the money is significantly more than what you're earning here. And this is expressed by Robert Allen, who said that I made millions of dollars. I made millions of dollars in real estate, selling real estate, but I made but I made hundreds of millions of dollars teaching people how to sell real estate. So what Robert Allen was saying is that you make much more money when you teach other people, as opposed to Sorry guys, I have a problem here. Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, I have to resize my screen. Okay. Sorry. So, this is the money that people don't suspect that they can make, because they don't suspect that there's actually a third floor here where you're creating information products. And the good news is that I'm a kind of expert at creating information products, so you can generate passive income. So when we talk about information products, what are we talking about exactly? Well, these products are really not the same thing as your services, when you're a professional over here, because it's not so much about your intelligence, it's about intelligibility. So let me explain what I mean by intelligibility. When you're a professional, obviously you have intelligence in your head. You're intelligent, right? But intelligibility is quite different. Intelligibility means that, other people can, of course, understand you, but they can also replicate your results. So they can understand you, and they can replicate, meaning that they can replicate your results by doing exactly what you're doing. So again, it's this idea of a recipe, because I think that, most recipe, if not all recipes for cooking, most recipes are very clear. Like, they're telling you which ingredients you need, in what amounts, and they give you the sequence of steps. And most of the time, they even provide photos so that you can check, right? So this is, what a recipe looks like. And a recipe is intelligent. Now, the problem that most people are making when they're professionals is that their recipe is not very clear. They show up at the office, they do what is required, but it doesn't occur to them to extract their intelligence and turn their intelligence, and this is very crucial, turn their intelligence into something that is intelligible to other people. So, these days we talk a lot about AI, this, AI, that, but I think that, for most knowledge workers, what is more important than intelligence is intelligibility. Okay, this is where you're going to make the big bucks. And that's what I'm going to teach you how to do. And it's not exactly an easy, it's not exactly an it's not an easy thing to do, and most people don't even suspect that there is a third floor. So what I mean by intelligibility, I'm gonna share with you my experience. It was a long journey that for me started in 2005, where I became like a teacher. I was teaching with my sister Zuni, and so in 2005 I decided, I have a business degree, so why don't I create like a business workshop, and I call it Business 101. And I was teaching like 3 women entrepreneurs, and I went to a local library and I charged them like only $10 for for my business workshop. So I made a total of, wow, $30 in 2 hours. I know it sounds crazy, but you have to go through this, because when you have an audience, in this case only 3 people, it forces you to do something that is absolutely critical. So it's not the $30 that was important 21 years ago. What's important is what I call articulation. you have to speak and you have to articulate what you know. So articulation of knowledge. And ideally, it's not just speaking, right? Because nowadays, whenever you're speaking, you should record yourself. So this is really important, really, really important. Always record, okay? Always record. It's super important, and everyone has a smartphone today, so you can always record, whether you're consulting, you're coaching, whether you're training, always record. Now, of course, you have to ask the other person, the other person's permission, but always record your Zoom sessions, your consulting. Like I record, as you can see here, I'm recording my thinking, I'm sharing with you, so that after a few minutes, when I end this live stream, I have a video that shows exactly what I've been saying, and therefore, potentially millions of people can benefit. So 21 years ago, I learned to articulate my knowledge, and I record. And over time, over the years, I began to teach, in classrooms. I think starting from 2013, I was teaching the starting business course. And I developed and I taught like 7 college level courses. So I have a lot of experience. But basically, in a nutshell, what I discovered in the last 21 years is that there's a process where you're going from the knowledge in your head. I'm just going to draw the diagram here. The knowledge in your head is never going to liberate you financially unless and until you transfer, you export that knowledge in the form of, an ebook, in the form of a video, which is usually better than an ebook. And then later on, it can become a video course when you package all these videos together, like even in the form of audios or MP3. So your knowledge can be transferred in so many different formats. So this is a knowledge in somebody's head, right? It can become an ebook, a video, it can become an audio, it can become like a newsletter. I have like 100 different product formats, and it's up to you. Like some people like video, some people like audios only, other people like to write books, but I guarantee you there's like 100 different product formats. So you have newsletters, you have reports, you have case studies, you have blogs, but although blogs is difficult to monetize, you have blueprints, you have web applications, which I'm doing, you have video games. There are so many different product formats that can capture your knowledge, and that's the important part. But it's more like knowledge capital. So anyways, it captures your knowledge, and therefore once you have all of these different products, guess what? You can sell these products, and you can make money because these are products. You don't have to be involved. Your time is not involved, and this is how you generate passive income. But the process of turning your knowledge into intellectual capital and then into information products, it's not an easy process, which is why I've created the Knowledge Monetization Academy that you can join. But I'm going to talk more about that later on. But in this live stream, what is important is to understand that you are currently in level 2, and most people, they're so immersed in their job that they don't see the big picture. They're right here. They're professionals, right? They're so much into it. And if you're a professional, your boss is always on your case, always giving you work, and then you have to deal with coworkers, office politics, make sure nobody is stabbing you in the back, and of course don't stab anybody in the back. So you're so involved in your in your job right now. But what I want to invite you to do is you have to zoom out. Okay, like you have to zoom out, and you have to see that there's a bigger world out there. Specifically, there's a 3rd floor where you can actually create products. Okay, products mean something physical outside of you. Here, you're still stuck in the world of services. And so as long as you're offering services, you're never going to become financially free or rich because you're stuck. It's like a prison. So you have to move your mentality from services to products. Products are, of course, things that other people can use even while you're sleeping. And so, you have to come up with a recipe. And once you have a recipe of how you're able to produce your results, you can create products. Now, let's talk about recipe a little bit because, and also let's talk about results, because a lot of times people will say, well, Peter, that sounds nice, but I'm not an author. I'm not a teacher like you. I don't even know how to create a video course or let alone an ebook. So, but I want to reassure you because I created a framework that allows you to go from your results, like whatever results you've had in your life. If you have positive result, you can make money. So a result is the first thing that you need. A second thing that you need is you need to have a framework. And I talked about this before. A framework is just like a geometrical figure or a methodology, etc. And once you have a framework, then you can, move on to specifying exactly the actions, like really in detail, right? Don't forget, this is like a recipe. So the action have to be clear. And at the end, no matter what actions you're teaching people, they're always going to make mistakes. That's normal. And so you have to give them a way to monitor and manage their results, because they're not going to get the same results that you did. Okay. So they have to manage their results, their processes, they have to monitor and measure, etc. So overall, this is a framework that I call the FARM framework, where you have the framework, you have all the actions, like step by step. You have the results, and you have the management framework. So you don't have to be a professor like me, no, that's not a good thing, because a professor like me is going to teach people a course in 15 weeks. Like, your customers are not going to spend 15 weeks and 45 hours per semester. So you really don't want to become a professor. This is something I really want people to understand. You just need to have the results, and whatever successful results you've had in your life that you worked hard for, then chances are other people can, want your results. So what you're selling, this is important. What you are selling is results. You're not so much selling knowledge, although knowledge is part of it. What you're selling is results. And I would even be more specific here and talk about probable result. And what I mean by probable result is that you are selling people a high probability that they're going to get the results that you achieved. But you're not telling them, it's not 100%. And people don't expect 100%. But if you tell them, what, if you do what I recommend, you have an 80, to 95% chance of succeeding. And so people are okay with that, because they understand that even if you transfer the knowledge to them, they still have to do the work, and it's always risky, and nothing is sure in this universe, right? And they will buy it. But you're telling them, you can achieve my results, or what I would say, like similar results. But the point here is that you're giving them hope, you're giving them a method, you're giving them education, and that's what they're paying for. But ultimately, you are selling to them the results that they're going to get. And, if you focus on the results and you tell them, here's what you're going to learn and what you're going to achieve in your life, in your career, in your marriage, in your relationship, in your dating, whatever, you're selling them results, and people will always buy result. Okay, this is important. People will always result or success, they will always buy results or success. So in a nutshell, that's what I'm going to teach you once you join the Knowledge Monetization Academy. And I have to create a membership or an academy because, as you can see, all of these things, it's not easy. Okay, like, it looks in a diagram, it looks easy. You're on the first floor, and then you get to the second floor where you're professional, and then you go to step number 3 where you're making money in passive income. It sounds easy, it sounds neat, but it's not easy, because it's a very technical field. And that's why I really have to create a membership site where I'm going to teach you everything step by step. I'm offering to my 21,000 connections, I call it the knowledge monetization club. And of course, you've got to have expert knowledge. You've got to have succeeded in some way at something. You've got to have generated results, so that you can teach other people how to replicate those results. Okay, I'm going to take a break. I have a phone call, but I'm going to resume in 5 minutes. Yeah, we were talking about, this knowledge monetization club, and I'm gonna launch this membership on LinkedIn because I really want to, you know, help people to make money from their knowledge, and especially today with artificial intelligence, it's gonna put a lot of pressure on people to, begin to generate like maybe a second source of income, and so you can create ebooks, video courses, and especially today with artificial intelligence, it's easier than ever to to create an ebook or a video course. So let me go through the process with you, how you can begin to monetize your knowledge by first of all capturing your knowledge. So you can use ChatGPT, of course. You can use other language model. So you're just talking with ChatGPT, and you're going to be able to make explicit your knowledge. So you're just chatting, and over time you can ask ChatGPT, hey, based on our conversation, can you create an outline for an ebook? And usually I ask it to provide 10 chapter headings. And then the second prompt will ask ChatGPT to write one paragraph per chapter, and you can keep prompting until you get like an ebook, and you can sell your ebook. But the ebook is just the beginning. After that, you can ask ChatGPT to create a script for, let's say, a Zoom webinar. And a Zoom webinar basically allows you to invite people and they can ask you questions. So you can give it away for free, or you can charge a small amount of money, $10, $20. And from your Zoom webinar, you can, and this script means that you're the one who's going to do the voice. But later on, you can create a video course, and this time you don't have to use your voice. You can use 11 Labs. So 11 Labs is an AI that will generate, I think it's 11 Lab or Labs, I forgot, but it's it generates AI voices for you, so you can have a video course with professional sounding voices. And so this is basically a very simple, a very straightforward way to, to turn your knowledge into information products by using artificial intelligence. Like in my case, I also use Notebook LM from Google, which is great. And so this is, this is probably the easiest way for you to monetize your knowledge, because I want to stress again the idea that as long as your knowledge remains in your head, you're going to have a job. That's it's not difficult to get a job. But the problem with the job is that, even though it gives you money, it does not give you freedom. So you get money, you get a paycheck. I quit that game like 26 years ago in June 2000 when I quit my job, because I was making a lot of money, but a job doesn't give you freedom. And this is the freedom to travel, the freedom to be with your family and friends, the freedom to be with your kids, to be with your lovers. No, wait, one lover at a time. So you don't have freedom, right? So, and the only way to have freedom is if you, talk to an AI like ChatGPT, and you talk to ChatGPT, you talk to Grok, and you generate an outline for your ebook, and then later on, you have a Zoom webinar, and you create a video course, and you use 11 Labs. But also, like from your video course, you can create, an application, which is what I'm doing. I'm creating apps that people can fill out because it's on the web, and I'm charging anywhere from $10 to $50 for these apps. But this is really advanced. Like, don't think about apps right away. think about a video course, because that is what is selling right now. And once you create a video course and you're selling it for $100 on teachable.com, for example, you're going to be on your way to generating passive income. Yeah, and that's the opportunity that AI is giving you. Because let's say that we didn't have ChatGPT, how would you articulate your knowledge? You would have to do it the way that I did it, which is the hard way. It reminds me of comedian Rodney Dangerfield. He said, I learned about sex the hard way from books. So in the same way, my journey has been exciting. I love it. But in the last 20 years, it took me years, literally, to be able to create information products and video courses. But in your case, it's typically going to take you a couple of days. You talk to ChatGPT and it's going to help you. And I'm going to give you the prompts also that you can use, so that you can, use those prompts to get exactly the output from ChatGPT, so that you can monetize your knowledge. But here's the important thing I want you to really understand. And this is very crucial, because all of this, that's just the technical stuff. I think the major unlock really is to, I'm going to draw it here. The major unlock is that you have to realize that your knowledge in your head, okay, your knowledge in your head, of course, it's contained within your skull, right? Like outside of your skull. Oh, sorry. So that's not a good skull. It looks like you've been. So this is your skull. This is the thickness of your skull. And I have to draw this graphically because I really want people to understand what I'm talking about. So typically, your skull, like on average, the thickness of your skull is 6.5 millimeter for most men. For women, for some reason, it's thicker. So women have a thicker skull. So this 6.5 millimeter, that, I know it sounds crazy, but that's the barrier to your fortune. And I want to talk about this very explicitly, because I'm not sure people understand. Actually, I'm sure people don't understand. And this is what I call the barrier to your fortune. And by fortune, I mean all the money you could make from your knowledge, but it's stopped by this barrier. And this barrier is what your knowledge has to penetrate and escape from. So your knowledge, when you're working on a job, you're using your knowledge, but it bumps against this barrier and it goes back here. You're applying your knowledge at work, it bumps against this barrier, and therefore the knowledge never escapes from your head. I know it sounds funny, but just stick with me. But with my help, with the Knowledge Monetization Club, your knowledge, we're going to make it penetrate through this barrier so that it's no longer knowledge in your head. For the first time, it's knowledge in the world. Meaning that other people, and I mean like 8 billion people, they can actually use your knowledge. So 8 billion people, for the first time, they can use your knowledge. And of course, because they can use your knowledge, whether it's in the form of an ebook or a video course, because they can use your knowledge, of course, they're going to pay you because they can use it. Okay. And they pay you even while you're sleeping because they're downloading your ebooks and you don't have to be present. They're downloading or streaming your video course. You can be sleeping. And so this is what I want you to understand, that this is something that most people, including university educated professionals, this is what they don't understand yet. They don't understand that the biggest obstacle to your financial freedom, it's not the knowledge in your head. You can make money with that. It's the fact that you have this invisible barrier that nobody has told you about. Like none of your teachers, your parents, your mentors, your friends, nobody knows or has thought about this 6.5 millimeter. This is like such a small distance when you think about it. You know, it's like 7 millimeters. It's so small. But the problem is that so far this barrier has been invisible to most people, but now it's not visible to you because I've actually showed you this barrier, right? So you cannot deny this anymore. This barrier now is visible to you, and your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to make your knowledge cross that barrier, because only when your knowledge is crossing this barrier, I'm gonna use it here. Only after your knowledge has crossed this barrier and becomes free. So your knowledge is now, your knowledge is free, meaning that it's not trapped in your head. Then, and this is the biggest promise I want to make you, then you can become financially free. Meaning that you don't have to work. You can work if you love it, but you don't have to work anymore. And that's what I'm offering you. Cannot say that you're going to become a millionaire. You could, very high chance, but the promise is that you become financially free, meaning that you can retire. You don't have to work at a cubicle or in a job. You don't have to report to anyone. You can become financially free. And that is only possible when you articulate your knowledge. So here your knowledge is free. But of course, the fact that your knowledge is free doesn't mean that you can create a product from it. So here you verbalize your knowledge, but now you have to organize your knowledge in a way that fits a particular product format. And that's what we're going to teach you in our Zoom sessions. I'm very passionate about it, so I'm going to give so many Zoom sessions. But you organize your knowledge so that it become an ebook or a print book. It can become a video course. It can become, a blueprint. Anything that people can clearly read, understand, and apply. Okay, so essentially, they have to read it or watch it. They have to understand it. And they have to be able to apply it in order to get, the benefits that you're promising them. So read it, understand it, and apply it. And it's not hard, like I said, because nowadays with AI, it's easier than ever. If you use ChatGPT, it's easier than ever to make explicit your knowledge. So ChatGPT is, I know it sounds crazy, but 95% of the population are not paying for ChatGPT. I did, and it's worth it. But you don't have to pay for ChatGPT. Like even if you get ChatGPT for free, and now they have made the GPT 5.5 available for free, you should definitely use it to make money. But you see, like whether it's ChatGPT or Google or XAI or Grok, Claude, Anthropic, it's not the AI that makes money. The AI is helping you to make money, but you have to make the effort to identify your most valuable knowledge. Like here, I put knowledge, but now I think I'm actually going to teach you. I can't believe I'm giving you all this value for free, but I'm going to go deeper because you can't really sell all of your knowledge, right? So we're going to get down into the nitty-gritty detail and explore like what's inside of your head. Okay, let's say that this is your head. Whoops. So let's say that this is your head. Hold on. You have all kinds of knowledge. You have knowledge, let's say, about cooking, you have knowledge about social dancing, you have knowledge about technology, but not all of this knowledge is valuable. So we're going to represent with a triangle the knowledge that you have that is valuable, valuable to you, right? So this is valuable knowledge. So you have all kinds of knowledge, all kinds of information, all kinds of presuppositions, assumptions, like a lot of things are going on in your head. But what's inside of the triangle, that's what we call your valuable knowledge. And I'm going to use my case to share with you what is really valuable about my knowledge. So in my case, I could say that the knowledge that I have that is valuable, that enables me to perform actions and get results, because don't forget about our previous framework. The framework is called FARM. So I have a framework or methodology. I know specifically in great detail the actions. I know the results I'm aiming for, and I have a method to measure, monitor, and manage. And so the knowledge I have in my triangular shapes here, it could be knowledge about calligraphy. I've been doing calligraphy for more than 30 years. It can be knowledge about copywriting. I used to be a professional copywriter, charging hundreds of dollars for a few texts. Knowledge about course development. I've created courses at the college level successfully many times, 7 or 8 times. And so this is the knowledge that I have that is valuable. I have other kinds of knowledge, but it's not valuable because it's lacking maybe the results. So for example, I've read here, I've read like 1,000 nonfiction books, Alvin Toffler, Edward de Bono, etc., but I haven't generated results, right? So it's lacking the result. And I don't even have the framework, and I know, books by Alvin Toffler, books by Tom Peters, but I don't have the framework. In the case of Edward de Bono, I do have the framework, so I can actually teach that. But that's another live stream. I'm going to teach you how you can take a practical book and you make it your own by twisting and adding your own touch, and you can teach it. So Edward de Bono is probably among the very rare authors that I can make money from. So I've read 1,000 books, and Edward de Bono, he's the authority on creativity. I can probably take his books and teach it, but using my own style so I don't infringe upon his copyright. But anyways, I have a lot of knowledge here in my head. It's not, there's no money. Here, there's money involved. Okay, so here it's not really valuable knowledge. And by the way, once you go through join our club, you're going to learn to identify valuable knowledge. And you're going to go out there and you're going to acquire valuable knowledge from even TikTok. That's right. From TikTok, from YouTube. And you're going to be able to, turn them into valuable knowledge or triangular knowledge. And you're going to be able to make money. Now, these TikTok influencers and these YouTube influencers, they don't know about this. Like they're giving away their information for free. If they knew about my framework, this framework over here, the farm, if they knew, they would create courses and ebooks that they can sell, but they don't know these secrets that I'm teaching you right now. And so they're giving away their information for free. But anyways, that's their challenge. We're not really concerned. They're making money from advertising and other stuff. But in our case, we want to identify your valuable knowledge. So your valuable knowledge, once again, they have to satisfy these criteria. It has to be a framework. You have to specify the actions in order to produce the results. Okay, so action will produce results. And you have to have a way of measuring everything. So let me continue. So once you identify your valuable knowledge in the triangle here, like in my case, it's calligraphy, copywriting, course development. I don't know why it starts with a C. So once you identify your valuable knowledge, you want to go to the next phase. Again, using that framework, the FARM framework, you want to move on to the next phase, and you ask yourself specific questions. And by the way, I'm going to create a web app that's going to help you through this process, by the way. But once you identify your valuable knowledge, then you try to remember, okay, I have these valuable knowledge, but how first of all, what is the result? And you have to spend as much time as is required. What is the result that you achieved? Okay. And of course, you have to be able to prove it. So like, for example, calligraphy, well, I've been able to learn and master italic calligraphy. But then you want to move on to the next question, because whatever result you achieve, that's you. That's not the marketplace. That's not your target market. Next, you have to try to figure out, and by the way, this is like iteration, validation, improvement, etc. So it's a cycle. You don't have to have the right answer right away. So the next question is what, and this is a question. The next question is, what is the result that people, you don't have to, at this stage, you don't have to specify exactly who, but what is the result that people want to achieve? And this is your leverage, in a way, your leverage over people. Like once you mention the result that they, that they want to achieve, then you can structure everything. And here's what I mean. Once you identify the result, and I'm going to provide examples later on, including a friend of mine was creating an ebook on dating for men. I'm going to provide that example. But once you know the result, then you have to look at your own experience and you try to remember, okay, what specific actions did I take to achieve that result? Okay, so it's a series of actions to provide, so actions to create and produce a particular result. So let's say result X, and you focus on that. I mean, this is not like a college course, okay? This is just an ebook or video tutorial in 60 minutes, and it's very specific. It's like a recipe, what is the result X, and what were the actions that you took. Now, like I said before, no matter how great of a teacher you are, your students will always make mistakes. So you have to provide them with a kind of management framework. And management means, you measure, you monitor in order to optimize. So the management framework here allows you to monitor and correct. Students will make mistakes. They have to be able to recognize their own mistakes, because remember, you're not a teacher, you're not in front of them, so they have to be able to independently correct their mistakes. Okay, so they have to be able to correct their mistakes or inaccuracies. Like they have to be able to monitor themselves, and so that they can optimize. Like even if they are doing it right, they can always do it better. That's what optimization means. Okay, so you can see here, it's quite clear that, first of all, what are the results that you've been able to achieve over here, and what is the result that people want to achieve, which may be very different. Okay, and then the actions that enabled you to achieve those results X, and the management framework that allows you to teach people how to practice. So management here is really, it's all about practicing. You have to teach your students how to practice. And by the way, they often say that practice makes perfect, but that's totally inaccurate. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice removes imperfections. So the more your students practice, the more they're going to remove those imperfections, and they get closer and closer to perfection, but they never really achieve it. Okay, so that's what we have so far. So you can see that this whole process, where we're starting with what's inside of your head, you have to identify your most valuable knowledge. So this is your head, and this is you. Okay, you identify your most valuable knowledge. In my case, it's calligraphy, copywriting, course development. And then you ask yourself, what is the result that you've been able to achieve? Like when it comes to copywriting, what result did I achieve? Well, a sales letter. That's what I did for my clients. Or in the case of course development, what exactly was I able to achieve? Well, I created a course outline of 15 weeks. And I can teach people how to do that. So now I'm going to give you an example, interesting example of a friend of mine who was writing a book to teach single men how to be successful in their dating. But I found her book is very interesting. But while I was reading the manuscript, it occurred to me, because I'm using this framework, it occurred to me that she doesn't use my technique, my methodology called FARM. So this book was, dating advice for single men. Okay. And so while reading her manuscript, I was able to use my framework. So I'm going to apply this with right here. So again, it's FARM. And essentially, it gave me the idea of extracting the framework. So the framework that I extracted from her book, I call it the 4 pillars of manhood. And the reason why you need to have a framework is that with a framework, which can be an acronym, for example, people can easily remember your knowledge. Like if you don't have a framework, the male reader reading her book would just read about stories, findings, research, techniques, hacks, but he's not going to remember. But by creating the 4 pillars of manhood, they're going to remember. So let me just share that. What is this thing? Let me just share those 4 pillars so you can see how, actually, I think I'm going to create like an ebook or a video course on this. So the 4 pillars that I identified was the man, the approach. I'd love to get women's feedback on this, by the way. The romance, the future. And what's great about these 4 pillars or this framework is that I can use dating advice for men online, and I can make them fit this framework, the 4 pillars, and I can sell these products, even though I'm using the information from other authors who obviously are more successful than I am in that particular niche. So for example, there's a lady, I think she's British. Her name is Kezia Noble. She has a huge following on social media where she's teaching men, but her videos on YouTube, Instagram, etc., it's all over the place. Oh, how to do this, how to do that, but there's no framework. But in her defense, I think she's selling DVDs and courses, so I think she does have a framework, but it's different from my framework. So my framework basically is that you've got to be the man, okay? Like you've got to have skills, you've got to, obviously, you got to have a job, you got to be competent, you got to be mature, you got to be reliable. So this is very much like personal development. And men who don't do personal development, like even learn how to cook. I had to learn how to cook. You're not really the man. You're just, I'm sorry guys, but you're just a man. Okay. And there's no woman out there who's looking for a man. Okay. Maybe some women are looking for, not Mr. Right, but Mr. Right now. But you don't want to be a man. You want to be the man. So you got to have skills, education, jobs. Of course, you got to have money. Okay. Financial stability, financial success is prized by women, not because women prize money, because a man who can make money, that says a lot about him. I had a ex-girlfriend who told me, I like rich men not because they're rich, but it's because it takes a certain kind of man to make that kind of money. And she's right. So the man is about money, job, skills, maturity, emotional maturity, or what they call emotional intelligence. The man has to be thoughtful, emotional intelligence. He has to respect his mother and be good with his friends. He has to be normal. It cannot be like a weirdo who's playing video games and is into porn all day long. It can't, you got to be the man. You got to graduate from being a boy to becoming a man. So that's the first pillar of manhood. The second pillar is, I think, what my friend was teaching through her ebook, The Approach. You can be a very successful, financially free, mature, competent person, but you've got to know how to approach women. And to me, it's almost like, not always, but it's almost like landing a plane. Okay, like it's a very delicate task, because women are very sensible. Okay, but women are very sensible, and so how you approach a woman makes a huge difference in how they're going to receive you, how they're going to talk to you afterwards. And I've done a lot of research on this. Well, not on this, but on the brain. And basically, this is where first impression really matters. So the way you're dressed, the way you approach her, the way you smile, everything matters. Like women really notice all the details. I used to have a flip phone. That was way in the day. And a woman I was dating said, it's better you have a smartphone. So I got a smartphone. So, women focus on details. So your approach has to be carefully practiced and rehearsed. Very much like landing a plane. If you don't practice your approach, there's going to be a crash. Okay. So the approach, how you approach women, how you talk to women, it's very important. Some men are too rude, too abrupt. They don't know how to talk to women. But that's what my friend was helping men with, the approach. Like even when you ask a woman for her phone number, you ask her, to go for a coffee, like the way that you do it, it's super important. Like women really respond to confidence. Okay. I made a huge mistake once. Like I used to be a talent recruiter, and I was, interviewing this beautiful Chinese girl, an actress. And on the phone, I was mumbling, and this is the only time it happened to me. I was on the phone because she's very beautiful. And on the phone, I said something, I would like to go for a coffee, whatever. But the words came out wrong. And there was a awkward silence. And she was very cool. She just continued the conversation like as if I didn't say anything. So that saved me the embarrassment, She could have said something like, Peter, what the hell are you saying? But she didn't. She just continued and ignored my mumbling. So anyways, long story short, you have to have a clever way to ask, women to go for a first date, because for better or worse, typically the guy has to do it. The women will rarely ask a man to go out unless it's clear that the man likes her and he doesn't have the courage, and the woman has to step up, which is sad, but usually it's a man who has to approach. So another episode that happened to me is that a friend of mine, a very good friend, my best friend actually, he introduced me to a Japanese girl, very beautiful. She was working for the Japanese consulate, and I saw her co-workers, and she's definitely a spy. And I say that she's a spy because studies have shown that, at the embassies and consulates, typically 1 person out of 4 is a spy. Okay. So she was working at a Japanese consulate. She spoke fluent English, French, and Japanese. and she was, biking around town with a bicycle that cost over $1,000, and very beautiful. Obviously, she's a spy. So, anyways, after the restaurant, I asked her, "Hey, we should hang out or something." I forgot what I said. Uh, what's your phone number? And she said something like, I'll give you my email. And I completely lied to her. She probably knew I was lying. I said, email? I don't have email. I just have a phone. What's your phone? So I just asked her like in a funny way, and she gave me her phone. We start dating. So you have to have a way to make fun if the woman says no, because she's gonna say no. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the woman will say no just to test you. Okay, and are you going to persevere? Sometimes no means no, of course, but you can make a joke, right? You know, you can make a joke and ask her again, and then she's gonna know that you're more serious. But anyways, you've got to know everything about the approach, and it's very much like landing a plane. You got to rehearse it. Okay, the next thing, the next pillar is romance. Once she goes out with you, you got to make sure that it's exciting, and also it allows the both of you to open up and get to know the other. So the romance, you have to organize activities, and again, the man has to plan everything. So the man has to plan everything and make sure that she's having a good time, whether or not um, it leads to some place. It doesn't matter. You just have to make sure she has a good time and you have a good time. It's got to be romantic. But romance, fortunately for women, it's a very malleable concept. So anything can be romantic. But one thing I learned from one guy, very smart guy, he said that, to be romantic means that she's in a different world when she's with you. And I found that very fascinating. So to be romantic doesn't mean like the typical, dinner by candlelight. It could be. But as long as she's in a different world when she's with you, you introduce her to a new world. Because women love traveling. You introduce her to a new world, then it's romantic. So she's in a new world, a different world when she's with you. That's romance. Okay, the final thing is that, and this is not applicable always, because not all women are serious or at a stage where they want a future. If you're serious with a woman, by the way, I have no idea why suddenly this live stream is turning into some kind of dating advice. But you have to show her clearly that you're a man with a future. Like, you have to know exactly what is your vision for your future, and then she's going to decide, do I want to be part of that future? Like, how do you feel about kids? How do you feel about the projects you want to do in life? Are you going to buy a house? What about your career? Like, what is your vision? Again, it's the man who has to propose the vision, and the woman will say yes or no. Okay. Oh, hold on. Oh, hi there. Mẹ đang ở đâu? Không, nói về con thì mẹ không đến hôm nay được. Để ngày mai đến khoảng 4 giờ. Dạ, dạ. Con xuống đây. Okay, sorry. Yeah, so the future, you got to show that you have a vision. So for me, these are the 4 pillars. I'm very interested in hearing women's view. Maybe it would be interesting for a female version, like what are the 4 characteristics of a woman who's desirable. Anyways, so yeah, so you can see that, from this big diagram, there's a lot of things to be learned when it comes to making money from your knowledge, because I think that we live in a society where information is so abundant, right? So you are here, and there's a lot of information, and a lot of them are even misleading. But there's a lot of information out there on the internet, right? Whoa. Sorry. There's a lot of information on the internet, and your challenge is to convert that information into knowledge, in your head, and then you become a professional, and then afterwards your challenge is to pour that knowledge into information products. I'm going to represent with a cube, and then once you have that information product, you can basically sell. And the beauty of an information product is that you can basically sell it to people all over the world. You can replicate that product, you can scale it. The problem with having knowledge in your head is that you can only serve one other person, the employer or a client, right? And they're going to pay you money, but it's very little money. You can see it here. It's very little money compared to all of the money that you can make when you sell your products all over the world. And today you can easily translate your English language product into French, German, Spanish, Portuguese. So there's much more money to be made when you're, selling a digital product as opposed to just selling the knowledge in your head. So that's what I want to impress upon you. Sure, there are steps to follow in order to go from knowledge in your head to knowledge in the world, but these are steps. It's a recipe, very much like any recipe in the kitchen. You just have to follow the steps, and you're going to be able to generate information products like I did in the last 20 years. The point is that if right now you're working as a knowledge worker and the knowledge is in your head, you are unfortunately at risk, because guess what? There's something they invented. It's called AI, and the AI is going to have all the knowledge that you currently have. It's already proven. So this is important to understand, because whatever knowledge you have in your head, okay, nowadays you're going to compete with AI, and AI is like this huge database. ChatGPT, for example, it has so much knowledge and it works so much faster than you. There's no way you can compete against AI. So the only way you have to compete against AI is to create your information products and to start selling it. And you have an advantage, which I'm not going to talk extensively today because it's a whole different ball game. It's a whole new live stream. Your advantage is that the AI doesn't have tacit knowledge. So let me explain very quickly what it means. You have the explicit knowledge or information. I'm just going to put knowledge in quotation marks. It's not really knowledge, but the explicit knowledge has been used to train ChatGPT and all the large language model. But there's a different kind of knowledge that you have, which is not inside of the large language models, and it's called tacit knowledge. Tacit knowledge means the knowledge you have, but it's not articulated, and therefore it's not on the internet. And therefore this knowledge that you have that is not articulated, it's not in the AI. You have it, but OpenAI, Anthropic, they don't have it. And so that's your advantage. Tacit knowledge can be your judgment, your heuristics. It's something that is human. It's in your head, but you might not know that's in your head. So let me give you an example. I teach copywriting. Let me give you an example here regarding copywriting. So let's say I teach copywriting. There are two different types of knowledge when it comes to copywriting. Sorry, I don't know what happened. So there's what? Sorry, something happened here. Okay, there are two. Whoa, what's going on here? Okay, there's two types of knowledge. There's tacit knowledge, which is in my head, and there's, sorry guys, something's going on here. Yeah, so I was basically saying that tacit knowledge is the knowledge that you have, but it's not articulated. And so it's not available to large language models right now. So it's not articulated. So I think the summary for this live stream is that if you make the effort to to learn how to go from being a professional to being an information product creator, and this is something I talked about in my AI conference in 2018, you're making your knowledge, you turn your knowledge into a product, then you're going to do fine financially in the next few years, regardless of how AI develops, because you have a product and therefore your product can be sold online to make unlimited money for you. Of course, AI is always going to be behind you. It's always going to make your knowledge product obsolete, but that's why you have to keep on creating better and better product. And you can also, once you have a product and you have the authority, what you can do is from your product you can create, and this is something I'm doing myself, you can create a membership site or a community where other people can congregate and they can become a member, they can feel they belong. And so that's something, for example, that AI cannot replace. I mean, I don't see ChatGPT creating a membership site because ChatGPT is not a human being, right? So that's one advantage you definitely have. So even if AI can replace your information product, you can still have something that is viable. You have a membership site or club or a community, and that's what I'm creating, for example, on at My Fellow Canadians, and you can check it out. My Fellow Canadians. It's a self-service community where all Canadians, 42 million of them, can become members for only $30, and they can get all the resources, training programs to upgrade their skills and succeed in the AI economy. So yeah, I'm gonna give more live streams on this topic because it's very exciting to me to be able to turn knowledge into a product.